Welcome to the It's Time Podcast with your host, Professor Dale Feinauer from the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh College of Business Graduate Programs.
Welcome. This is your host, Dale Feinauer, welcoming you to another edition of the It's Time Podcast offered by the UW-Oshkosh College of Business Graduate Program. Once again, we're here at A.J. Armstrong Studios to help throw a little more fuel on the fire of your desire to enhance your business management skills. Today, we have with us Larry Dietz, Professional Plating, who will be helping us with his thoughts in terms of how to enhance your leadership capabilities. Larry, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about Professional Plating? What the heck do you do?
Sure. Good morning, Dale. I'm a general manager of Professional Plating in Brilliant, and Professional Plating started in 1979 by the Andrews family, who still owns us today. And that's a big part of what we do and why we do it. After 43 years, the family's continued to allow us to grow. Metal finishing is what we do. We're a job shop. We don't bend, stamp, form, grind anything. We basically take parts and we make them pretty, or we make them that they do not rust. So 400 different customers, recreational, motorcycle, Harley Davidson, John Deere, Aaron's, people like that. And we have about 175 team members in Brilliant, pretty local, just the one location. Started at 10,000 square feet back in 1979. We're at 200,000 square feet now, and
Wow.
adding more equipment as we speak. So pretty much a two-shift operation. Again, serving over 400 customers across the whole entire country.
Now, you make things prettier and you keep them from rusting. I assume you can only do that with metal. You can't do that with people yet. If you could help the old people out here, that might be useful.
That's true. Can't change a gray. Can't do anything like that. But yeah, anything metallic. Basically, whether it's a nut or bolt or a stamping or a wheel or a rim for a motorcycle, that's all about us.
Okay, very good. Well, tell us about you. What has made you the leader you are today?
Interesting question. I go back to my school days and probably C at best, and went to Catholic school, and I like to tell our team the story about why one ear's longer than the other, and what erasers are really for. They weren't for whiteboards; they were for beating me over the head. And I think those things are really the roots. And I don't mean that bad against public school or whatever, but I didn't know it then, but I know it now. And knowing that that was there to kind of teach you something and make something about it. Started out in accounting originally.
Tell me a little more about the school, though. What did you learn from that experience that made you that helped make you the leader you are today?
I would say just the discipline and the responsibility to do whatever you can do, but do it the best you can do. You don't have to be the A, but you have to be something type of a deal. And that if you just put the effort forward, the nuns at that point, they were there to make sure that you stayed in the lane. But again, they got you through the lane, basically, type of a deal. And indifference to not having somebody pushing you forward. I think there was always a reason. Again, I didn't see it at the time. You kind of hated them, and hate's a bad word. But you basically understand now, as I said, that there was a reason they were pushing us to be there every day and do things every day and respect each other way back many, many years ago.
And that's carried over to how you approach leadership today, that you take some of those same principles to your folks?
Yes, I started out as I mentioned earlier. I started out in accounting and cost accounting at a company called the Compsy, which is no longer in business, and spent about 20 years of my career there. The latter part of a dozen or so in the operations, and it was a unionized company, and basically I didn't know anything about a union and had grown up through it. We had 2,000 people there.
Right.
And, I had bosses at that time were telling me like, you can't do that. You can't talk to them that way. You can't work with them. And so it was really a totally different approach, not coming in with a preconceived notion. So my style has always been very collaborative, very open, very wanting to help somebody do something better going forward. So that's been the style that I enjoy working with and I think successful.
How do you think the folks that work with you would describe your leadership style?
Interesting question. I believe that it would be, I don't know if they would use the word pain in the butt once in a while in terms of being tactical and being follow up ish type of a deal. Fatherly, probably. Very much a care about person, very hands on. And you're not going to be fooled. I kind of do the one of the stories I like to play is Wisconsin, the old liar's dice game, lifting the cup on somebody.
Right.
You need to know what you're talking about, and you better have a good understanding of it, because there's a chance that somebody else is going to check you on it, type of a deal. So from that standpoint, I believe that they would respect the fact that I care a lot about them, and that one of the things that I say at times, whether it's the bonuses we pay or whatever, I don't get up in the morning to figure out how to take stuff away. I get up in the morning to how to figure out to make somebody more successful and give them more.
You've mentioned two aspects of leadership there: the fatherly, caring about the employees, and also the willingness to be a pain in the butt, the willingness to focus on the details and make sure they've got it right. How do you balance those two?
The again, in a current environment, we have 175 team members, anywhere from team members who've been with us for 40 years at the company to somebody who's starting today. And the balance of that is to get everybody to understand that there's a reason we're there, first of all, which is to make the company successful. That if the company is not successful and can't reinvest, that we're not going to be there. We're not entitled to that, and that's extremely difficult in the last couple of years to get away from the entitlement thought process and type of a deal. So balancing that out is a constant push towards communicating why. We have apps and things on our phone where we're literally communicating to the team at every given step. So I think it's important that they know why we're pushing hard and they know why we're holding everybody accountable and why we want things organized or clean or why we expect a certain level of quality to the customer, that it's not an unknown as to if they expect it and know it ahead of time, then what I am pushing for, what my leadership team is pushing for, has a better chance to be understood and accepted.
So, if I'm hearing this right, when you're pushing on the details, when you're pushing them to make a quality mark, etc., you're trying to make clear, look, I'm not just doing this to be a dink. I'm doing this because I need to from a quality customer perspective. You're giving them the reason why. That
Correct.
sounds important.
Correct. I think in our industry, there's a lot of competition, and I will never talk down. I like to say anybody can plate, anybody can paint. It's how you do it and who you do it with. And our team, we're very self-directed. There's 12 of us in the company that draw a salary. The rest are hourly. Those aren't good odds if you're talking about just running it with a security guard concept. And the whole concept is that they have to understand it. They have to know what's in it for them. They have to know what that reward is going to be, not just the hourly pay, but the bonuses or the success type of a deal. So the whole scenario of again knowing upfront where they're going, and it's at times difficult taking 18, 19, 20, and even sometimes 30-year-olds who have maybe come from a different industry or have come from hospitality or stuff like that, and for the first time somebody's sharing information with them that they haven't heard before. They haven't necessarily been thought that they could trust management. Well, why do they give us all these numbers? Why do they share that information? There's no trap. There's no hole in the ground. You're not going to fall in, but we have to get them across that threshold to understand that we're giving them the keys, so to speak, to basically be successful. And the one cool concept on a day-to-day basis is when we take those 18, 19, 20-year olds who maybe through the school system maybe weren't popular or didn't have a lot of friends, or they weren't the ones that had to go to school, or not everybody has to go to school, and we make them successful and we mentor with them a little bit. When they start showing confidence, it's pretty cool.
You talked about giving them the information. You talked about the empowerment, given your ratio of the salary to the non. Why is that important? Why are you taking that approach?
Again, if you in our industry, we don't make a product. We don't make a John Deere lawnmower. We don't make a Harley Davidson. We don't make a KI piece of furniture. So that said, obviously profit margin is important. And if we had a situation where we had a lot of telling going on versus a lot of doing and understanding, we wouldn't be able to continue to reinvest and get larger. So the whole scenario of having a team who is self-directed, understanding it, and likes making decisions throughout the plant floor or in the offices, super comes back to the way the business is set up from a profitability standpoint of view. The accepting extra cost, it just isn't something. We chatted a little bit earlier today about how the business is being impacted with chemical costs and things going up. Obviously, our customers don't want to pay for operational labor increases and things. So it's important that the continuous improvement really comes there. And that's really a big part of them understanding that what they do, making something better, reducing some costs, coming up with a more efficient way is going to increase the business that we bring in the door.
So I'm hearing you're doing the empowerment both because you think it's good for employee relations, but also you think it's just a more profitable way to run the organization.
Yeah, I don't believe about 8 years or so ago, we actually documented our we call it culture points and expectations. And a couple years ago, we rebranded ourselves with a new logo and kept our name Professional Plating, but just kind of stylized things a little bit. And we came up with a copper, black, and gray color type of a deal. And on this chart, you would see copper color words in there: listen, communicate, stay positive, don't be defensive, support, applaud. All of those types of things are behind the empowerment. And I talk a lot about Highway 10 runs out in front of our building,
Yes.
and I say to the team, we can flip each other off out on Highway 10, but you're probably not going to go to heaven. But we obviously can't flip each other off inside of the building. And that said, the listen, the communicate, the applaud, the be supportive, those are things we should be doing in society at every given point, type of a deal. So we're really trying to make our team be better people at work. We spend, the most of our waking hours with a work family versus our regular family.
Right.
And that said, the better off we can be there, they'll probably be better at home. They'll be better at church. They'll be better in their club. They'll be better at the Y or things like that to come back and be a better person. So the empowerment, again, it's a better environment type of a deal. We are union free at 175 team members. Brilliant area is blessed that way. We have a lot of industry in town, in the city. Brilliant, and it really fits the fabric of kind of a rural area that we deal with, small 3,000 person communities and some unincorporated.
It's interesting that you're thinking about this not just from a how will this make them better employees of yours and the company more profitable, but you're thinking at this from a much broader how does this enhance their quality of life, enhance all of their roles in the community, etc.
Yeah, I think businesses have that responsibility. I don't think all of them take it that way. I would you asked earlier what would the team say? Whether it's a pair of pants like this or a pair of jeans or whatever, they're familiar with all of our leadership group. Being on the floor, being involved, being out there, helping in production if it takes that type of a deal. So the involvement aspect of what's going on and making um, our part, whether it's donations that we might do, legacy things that we might do. We're constantly as a company giving back, but that's really our team giving back. We have a legacy fund that we've created that our team did through some raffles and donations and things like that. Have a hygiene drive going on right now. We do it every year to support the Salvation Army. So it's not just about it being a job. I talk all the time to our new hires that we meet at orientation all the time that I never want your job to just be a job. I want it to be something more. I don't want it to be a Sunday night setting your stuff out and, oh, I got to go to work tomorrow. I just don't want to be part of that. Don't ever want to have anybody have to come somewhere just because they have to go. It's a want to go thing. Now that might sound fluffy type of a deal, but if we can pay well and have fun doing it and make them feel that the legacy part of whether it's Salvation Army, Habitat for Humanity, American Cancer Society, things like that, that we can give back at the same time. Now they're having a bigger impact. They're taking care of Harley Davidson, John Deere, Aaron's. but they're also helping their community, type of a deal to get better. And I think they'll be better community members, which if we can do our own little part with 175 team members to help some of the division and craziness that our world has developed, I think it's the right thing to do.
You talked about a number of words that you had: listen, communicate. Could you tick a few of those off and talk a little bit about why do you think listen's important?
Obviously, listening and as a leader, one of my faults is that I want to solve people's problems too fast, and I want to
I understand.
I want to end their sentences. And Dale's talking to me about something. I'm like, well, Dale, we could do. And Dale hasn't even gotten halfway done. So it's important to listen to somebody, to really hear them out. The communication aspect, if you have somebody new coming in, or maybe you're a little different, this new team member maybe has a stud here, a ring here, and a stud there. Okay, it is what it is. That has nothing to do with their ability, and maybe their music's a little different. Okay, but your communication to them, again, not flipping them off on Highway 10, but at work you have to communicate to them, and you are their friend at that point. So be defensive is another one. Not being defensive, rather, to make sure that your body language isn't such that you're just exactly, that you're just closing it up, that you are receptive, and that team member is feeling good. We always say that if we can get new hire team members past the 30-day mark, that we really have them wrapped up. And that first 30 days is important for that body language, that listening, that communication, for them to feel new, that it's not cliquish type of a deal. Applauding. We have a system that we literally have what's called an applause system that gives out applauses and finds people doing good, and our team members, are applauding somebody for helping out on a different line, and then basically monthly we'll pick out 6 random winners for $50 gift cards. So it's very similar to perfect attendance system. So some people may look at it and say, well, businesses shouldn't have to do that. You're paying them. And this situationally is there's a whole lot more expectations that happen that team members, and we call them team members, we don't call them employees. The team members, want to be part of something bigger. So just that, the applause, the having fun, the recognition aspect of it is just super, super huge. And like I said, about 8 years ago, we documented that culture. And if somebody falls out of line and somebody has an issue, and John's maybe not talking in the right language, I may pull John in and say, John, what's our culture point number one? Talks about communication, fair, honest, open type of a deal. And most often you'll get some humility, and somebody will hang ahead and say, yep, I know, I wasn't there. I wasn't there. I crossed the line.
How do you balance culture with being really good? So a challenge in an organization could be, I've got this employee, they're great. They're my best salesperson. They're amazingly good at what they do, but they're just not with the program, with organizational culture.
It happens from time to time, and we'll just have that very frank discussion. We'll come with examples and lay that out. I'm a big sports fan, and a lot of times I'll use sports analogies type of a deal. And you can be the best 3-point shooter, you could be the best goalie, you could be the best football player, but if you're just not a good fit, that 10th round draft pick, that person may be a better fit. So you got to understand that a lot of times what gets in the way of somebody who's really good is they try to be too good, I think, at times. And I think that they overcome the others and understand that really good talent has to be supported by a special teams player, by, again, that 10th round draft pick, or that person who might be out of brilliant high school, or that person who's coming out of the food industry who's never been in manufacturing. So, but we do have to at times call somebody out, behind closed doors, and just kind of have that discussion to the fact that, hey, you're being hard on the team. The fit, they don't like to be around you, type of a deal, for this reason, type of a deal. And again, and the person has to see that as we're bringing it to you in a positive way. We're trying to do the same thing on the culture side, communicate that back, and document it. Rarely do we have to walk away, but I think companies that don't walk away from somebody if there's just a fit problem, I think you have a risk of losing the other team who is having the prickliness of somebody just not fitting. So
Right.
you risk keeping that really good, who with all their other stuff is maybe less than 50%. And when you look at it that way, I think it's pretty easy to bring it to the person to help fix it. And when you can get them through that again and help mentor them through it, they come back with some humility, and I think you have a victory for everybody.
So you try and help them grow, make lack of cultural fit a growth opportunity. But push come to shove, being technically good won't trump cultural fit. And if you don't fit culturally, that may not be the right place for you.
I think that's very well said, and I think it kind of relates back to your policies. Right now, a lot of companies are changing policies. We have I've heard of companies changing drug testing policies because they can't get team members, so now they're relaxing things. I've heard of companies changing attendance policies. I don't think that that's the right way. It's like setting aside culture, setting aside attendance policies, setting aside your drug testing policy. I think you have to have some good convictions to stick to that. And then the right thing will happen after a while versus changing to say, well, if I don't test for marijuana, now I'm going to have 15 more applicants. It's just not the right way to run a business.
What was your first leadership role? What did you learn from that role?
As I mentioned earlier, I started out in accounting and went into cost accounting, which very much kind of started to prepare me for it. It's very much not debit and credit, project related, working on cost, plant floor, things like that. And then from there, I went into a manufacturing manager. And again, it was in a unionized environment. Didn't have any prior experience. Worked my way through tech school, things like that. So a pretty quick, steep graduation. So, everything was just kind of relying on others. And I think that reliance on others developed a real trust from others.
Okay.
Didn't come in with a ton of experience, a ton of background. Mom was stay-at-home mom. Dad was in the engineering aspect. Neither one in a leadership role, other than the great job of the family,
Right.
type of a deal. So it wasn't a young kid coming in who had been around people who were leaders. So really the reliance on others and I had a boss one time who maybe wasn't the best and didn't use the best language, but had a good thought process. And the saying was, "You're only as good as those you surround yourself with." And I think I learned that at a very young age, just by having to rely on others because I did not have the leadership experience.
Make any mistakes when you were a new leader?
Obviously, you always do. I think looking back now, everybody. I think the old adage, "Boy, if I knew now what I knew then."
Yes.
Whether that was doing something in school or doing something in sports or family aspects or whatever. The I don't necessarily like the word mistake. It might be fluffy again to call it an opportunity. It's just a matter of what you want to decide it is. Do you saddle yourself up with something? Mistakes really more along the line of a bad thing,
Right.
type of a deal. And in our business, we're working on hundreds of orders a day, 400 different customers, things like that. There's going to be something where somebody forgets this or forgets that, but hopefully you've set your processes up to be strong enough that you're able to deal with that. And then that problem or that opportunity, instead of calling it a mistake, serves as just that, an opportunity to do something different.
How do I learn from it and grow?
Right.
You think you were a born leader, given what you said about background?
I don't know. I think we could drink a lot of beer together and talk about who's born and how you're born. I think most of those things are developed. I think again, nothing against the school system, but I think too often we kind of portal people right off the bat, and we decide what they are way too early in life. I
Portal
like
in what
to
sense? Talk about that.
well, I think we kind of, put them off and you're a high achiever. You're a high achiever right off the bat, or you're athletically inclined and you're going to be really good. And then we start cranking in kids' heads at freshman level that they all got to go to college. And I just think that in a lot of kids is the wrong deal. So I think when you say born a leader, I like to tell team members when they come in for orientation, attendance is absolutely the biggest trait you can ever have. Knowledge is good, education is good. Don't take it away from the UWO system or anything like that. But if you're not here, I can't teach you. If you're not here, I can't mentor you. If you're not here, you can't learn more to earn more. So the whole born a leader aspect, And I mentioned earlier about seeing somebody who grabs confidence and really grows. The term leader is very broad in my mind. Everybody is one. And whether we have a title of lead inspector or lead racker or lead person, there's that, but there's the aspect that everybody has to be willing to grab somebody along or take somebody along, with them. So I really don't think people are born as such. I think you are developed, and then it's a matter of how people help you continue to grow or challenge yourself. Obviously, at our age, if it's reading, uh, watching things, case studies, things like that, magazine type of a deal, I don't think you ever stop learning how to lead differently. When I joined the company 23 years ago, obviously was a whole lot different than it was today, size of business, but also what you had to do to make your team be successful. It's constantly changing, and I think it's a constant evolution. So I don't think you could be born that either. I think you have to continue to adjust it, and it's no different than the camera. We're focusing and constantly changing that, and maybe getting a little bit farther out, and then we get a little bit farther in, and then that's where we want to be.
You said a very broad concept of leadership. How would you define leadership?
I would say responsibility, um, understanding, ownership, being the example that you want to be. Um, Basically, doing the right thing. Most often, because people are going to look at you differently. You have to be willing to be looked at differently, to have an understanding, not to stick your chest out to be different or I'm that. We don't have assigned parking spots. It's all random. Everybody comes in the same door. That type of a deal. Very important to me to have that as a company. So from that standpoint of view, I think that the level ground of the definition of leadership is pretty broad.
You've said several things here that lead me to believe that it's important to you that you project the concept that you don't perceive yourself as better than ever anybody else in the organization. Is that accurate?
I would say very very accurate. I think it's important to make sure as you are in the organization, whether it be general manager or my business team managers, that you hold yourself to a different ranking. Okay, not that you act to a different ranking. Okay. So you're not necessarily, I'm this because of that, or I'm better than you type of a deal. But whether it's the hours you put in, whether it's the way you might keep your office, whether it's your communication style, whether it's your follow up to somebody being the best one at follow up, whether it's walking down the aisle and there's paper laying in the aisle, not walking back past the paper in the aisle. It's the example is the fact that that's not right. Let's do something about it. Don't call somebody or have somebody on the janitorial team, take care of it. So I think it's again super important to not think of yourself as different, but on the things that people are going to look at, you have to be the best in those things to have them want to emulate you and want to be around you because your honesty is high, your acumen for business is high. They need to know that you care about them. A leader who's just being a leader because they want to direct, who really doesn't care, to the background about, somebody's family or who's having a problem or things like that. We try not to pry, but we have employee assistance programs if somebody has, a drug dependency. We have a young lady who just went into a 30-day program. Okay. Bigger thing in life is her deal, not the company's deal right now,
Right.
So there's a lot that comes into leadership that just has an understanding of hopefully she comes out on the other end and she's going to be better. And then if she's better, we'll be better.
So I'm hearing that as a leader, you feel a need to hold yourself accountable to a higher standard, but not to project that you're better than other folks in the organization. Is that accurate?
I think very well said. I think again, I mentioned earlier about you have to be careful not to stick your chest out. You can't show up as different, but you have to show up because I say a lot of times to my fellow leadership group, and most of them are female, by the way. And I say, ladies, they know the team knows what we're doing at any given time. Okay. And we're very influential. So we can be influential good or we can be influential bad. And it's very almost parental, that if it's okay for me to go through the wrong door for safety, or if it's okay for me to not have my safety glasses
Because
on.
I'm the GM, I can do that.
Correct. And I think that that's the important thing to understand, that you never want to get those just do it because I told you to do it things. I don't know that I've ever said that.
Self-awareness, self-reflection, are those important qualities in a person who aspires to be and is a leader, that they're self-aware?
I think there's two things that you have to be careful about, is to worry about the right things. Okay. Um, Make sure that you have a strategy. One of my other favorites is hope is not a strategy. And if you're just getting up every morning hoping things are getting better, then you're probably going to be worrying about too many things. And I think the aspiring to be a leader bit has to be, again, you have to be strategic. You have to have a set of principles. In our case, the culture points and expectations guide us. Two-thirds of our new business comes from our existing customers or people who take us. So we basically have developed that recipe that professional plating has the right mix. We're not considered the cheapest and don't want to be. Okay. Nothing against Walmart, but we don't want to be the Walmart of coating.
Right.
We need to be able to reinvest and have that. So, but our customers know. And again, it all starts back at the leadership, the expectations we set of each other, that we're leading for our customer. A third of what we ship out on a day-to-day basis goes to our customer's customer, doesn't go back to them. So it's that almost Amazon-ish type deal where we're shipping something for them to somebody else type of a deal. And there's leadership built in that too, because our team is the last one put it in the box. They're leading it to the customer in that regard.
Do you think most of the associates, team members in your organization would be able to articulate, we're not trying to be the cheapest, but we hold ourselves to a higher standard so we cannot be the cheapest? Do they understand that?
I think once you primed them and got them aware of that, I believe that we have gotten that message across. Again, if you came into our plant, 200,000 square feet, very bright, very clean, very good air quality, just a great, always laid out. Okay, and we always say that's the standard that we want. If we come in, I don't want to use the wrong words, but if it's a crap hole and there's stuff all over the
That's
place
fine.
and it's like our garage, and we're just tinkering, you go tinker in your garage. You don't tinker in the plant. You don't tinker in your processes. So if you have that team who comes in and sees it of everything has a place, everything has some organization, whether it's a 5S or your workplace processes, then basically our chances of hitting that bullseye every time are pretty darn good, because it's back to a repeatability. We talk about being repeatable and consistent every time.
It sounds like you've been very strategic about how you approach leadership, the words that you stress to the employees, what you want in the physical environment, that leadership in this organization hasn't just kind of happened. You've been strategic about it.
We again, we're an open book company. We share profit and loss. COVID has changed that a little bit. We don't meet as often as we do, but when we get together, is a 5:30 in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, 1:45 in the afternoon. PowerPoint slides, projecting, literally telling team members, here's where our sales were for the month. Here's where we're at year to date. Here's what our profitability is at. Here's where the bonus is at. So the strategic scenario is all the way back to what I said early on. If somebody has a voice, and if they understand what's going on, that comes with the knowing, and they're certainly going to stick their chest out and say, "Hey, I understand, and I understand the why, and I know that we're growing, or I know that our sales are up over last year, or just different things like that." They know it, and I think have a better chance of feeling to be being part of it, instead of back to if they don't know it, then they're going to feel, well, it's just a job. I don't really know what's going on.
So you share the numbers. There's a lot of debate in organizations. A lot of companies are very uncomfortable, family-owned businesses, with the concept of sharing profit. Oh, the employees are going to see how much money we make, and it's going to make them mad. How did you come to the conclusion that it made sense to share those numbers? Was that done when you started?
No, it wasn't done when I started. I'd like to have a little fun with that. And Bob Endries is the name of our owner, and I would tell team members a lot of times at meetings, and I turn to use it every time. I say, and those of you that are new here, just understand that Bob Endries didn't go down to the bar on Friday night to talk about sales and profitability. You probably shouldn't either. So just having a little fun with them to say, hey, we're giving you some information here. Use it for your end. So the information flow, again, I think if you're nervous about it, then you're probably worrying about the wrong thing, type of a deal. As far as the being worried about how much money, our bonus systems, in fact, we just changed them. We used to set aside 15% of pre-tax profit to pay out to the team, and the family just adjusted that to 25% as of the first of the year. So last year, our team got bonuses that for all 4 quarters would have been around $4,500 collectively. If we just performed to last year, which isn't what we get up every morning to do, those checks would total about $7,600 this year. So seeing the numbers is knowing the numbers because they can drive that number forward. It's on quality, safety, delivery, and overall profitability. Very easy metrics that they are the team who are taking care of it. It's not remote control. I don't have the joystick on them right now, and I know the plant's running fine.
So I'm hearing that you not only share the numbers with them, but you've come up with a system to give them skin in the game. So they care not just out of pride, but it matters to them at a personal paycheck level.
Right. The world right now is all about entitlement. And we obviously are in a very competitive market. We've increased wages like others have. We pay significant shift premiums. We always have. The whole scenario of if the company's successful, you will be successful. We call it success bonus, and the instead of an S, it's a dollar sign in the first word, so it's success bonus. And the paying quarterly, they can see the bar. It's not an annual, so they can see where it goes.
Okay.
They know where it's building, each and every month, and every day on an app on the phone, they get a little scorecard. Here's red on delivery. Here's red on quality. Here's red on safety. And again, you don't have every single team member checking that, but we have a pretty high ratio of team members who, as you came back and would ask questions, maybe delivery is posted or as well. They have an awareness of what they're driving.
So you're giving them information in a real time, a daily basis. And some of them are coming back to you and asking questions around, hey, I see our delivery isn't where we want it to be, or it's moving in the wrong direction. And then that leads to discussions.
Right. And that's the key is back to the 12 salaried and 175 total. If the 12 salaried are the only ones, on the focus knob, okay, that's just too late. The other ones have to be on the buttons, so to speak. So whether it's a part that doesn't turn out and the paint has to get stripped off and redone quick today, or the parts are turning out and we need to go to a different tooling so that they do turn out. Those are decisions that are best handled. Most of our processes take 2 hours at a max. Okay. So that 2 hour process, we can either make parts really good, really fast, or we can make parts really bad. So the team who's closest to that process are the ones that, again, with the information, knowing that quality in the box matters and delivery matters in that scenario.
So I'm one of your followers, and I think you're making a mistake. I think Larry's he made a decision here that isn't the right answer. Do you want me to tell you? Do you want your followers to challenge you?
I think as any leader, obviously there's always something inside of us that, well, why are they questioning me? Type of deal. I think that's just human. I think that's
Yes.
just human nature. As far as the approachability, again, the app that we have has the ability to chat. So there's 175 team members who can chat direct to me at any time. Okay. Just one on one, sending me a chat like a text. Okay. Now, obviously, I have a fair amount of team members on a text as well because of whether they're communicating to me about a family thing or whatever over the years. But so the ability to come to any myself or one of my other managers and ask a question or challenge something. Obviously, I don't want anybody to ever roll over. Want them to be big boys and girls when it comes to that answer. That answer that I might come back with might be, no, we need to wear those safety shoes for this reason. No, we're not going to change that rule type of deal. But as far as I think what you're, I think the promotion there, I think you should have looked at my pay differently there. I had this, this, and this. Okay, we'll take that back. We do an annual performance review for everybody that gives them a voice in it too, so they can gain from 4 to 4.5 or 5% annual increases. They do a self evaluation of themselves before we do their review. So kind of that challenge or listen to me first is also comes out through the performance review system.
Very good. Is leadership for everyone? Should everybody aspire to be a leader? You think everybody be a good leader?
Probably not the answer that you're looking for. I would say yes, back to it's not a title.
Go
Okay.
on.
If you ask that question, that is it about a title of being a coordinator, a manager, the lead assistant, the offensive coordinator,
Having direct
whatever,
reports, that sort of thing.
having that sort of thing. I would say for that end, it would not be for everybody, because I just think that it's a confidence thing that some people just don't have the confidence to get that. But being sharing, communicating, willing to take somebody who's new and teach them, which is leading. Okay, everybody has to have that aspect. Whether it's helping somebody to the pew in church, whether it's doing something different for somebody in an organization, whether it's working at a fundraiser. The title of leading is just something I think we lose a lot, and it's just that we have this society that some people are tellers and some are doers. I think it's much bigger in the middle that we all need to know how to tell and we all need to know how to do, and it's not a title relationship.
There's a lot going on, it sounds like, in your life. You got a lot of people in the organizations, you're involved in the community. There's a lot. How do you take care of you? How do you make sure you're okay?
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that's an important question, or how to. Obviously, there's a lot of time. You have to gain a lot of energy from your team. I think part of what I do is just feed off of the success. Or I mentioned earlier, one of the things that really drives me is when you see somebody develop a confidence that they didn't have, or somebody move to a new position. Typically, if somebody gets a new position or promotion, I'll also send them a little note and a little card, congratulations. And I'm not doing that to be their friend. I really truthfully am happy for them. As far as the energy level and things like that, whether it's the working out or the reading or the walking. I officiate some high school basketball. I used to do college. I was Mr. Fisher here at UWO. Has chewed my ear a couple times in the past, but I retired this year after about 25 years of the college. But I did help out in some emergency stuff with COVID this year. But that forces me to stay in shape year round. So again, same thing with our team. We have a big wellness program. We have $65,000 of fitness equipment on site. So it's not just me or anybody else. It's what are you doing to get your mind straight, and really just so that when you come back to, I said this a couple times today, you have to be able to not, it's not just a job. And the physical aspect or the mental aspect of how you prepare, is whether it's eating, whether it's sleeping, whether it's just what you do away from work, so that when you come back, you're just supercharged.
So it sounds like a combination of some aspects of leadership are charging your batteries because you get personal satisfaction from it. And you've carved out time to make sure there are other things going on in your life that help recharge your batteries and give you satisfaction.
I think there's definitely a balance. It's good summary. The If you're not in an aspect of what you're doing, whether it's in your job or in your personal life, that you're getting that fuel from it. And I always say to team members, if you're ever bored, in our company, we haven't plugged you in right. The grounding plug's missing, or I only got one plug in or something, because it's a fast paced environment. And again, all of the culture stuff with the fast pace can be really fun type of a deal. So I think the being able to have all of those different things coming behind you, again, back to that nothing's just, I just do it because I want to. If you're not doing part of a club, or you're not doing a sport, or you're not doing a hobby, or you're not doing your profession, to that you're getting something energizing off of it, not just the money,
Right.
type of a deal. I just don't think you're ever going to be the best at it.
Okay. So there needs to be that multiple motivation.
Without a
Have
doubt.
you had any mentors in your life that have been helpful to you?
Again, back to when I started in business, I started in a unionized environment. Okay. And language in those days really wasn't good language. And it was a lot of cussing and things like that. And, we talk about the division of today and, there was just a lot of anti, type of a deal. But at the end of the day, things like I said earlier about surround yourself with, with the best. You're only as good as those you surround yourself with, those types of the things. And again, the work ethic, back to it. And I go all the way back to the Catholic school that I talked about early on, along with parents who worked hard, whether it's stay at home, babysitting, factory jobs, things like that.
Has the challenge of leadership changed over the years? How is it different today than it used to be?
It obviously continues to adjust, uh, the workplace, COVID, pre-COVID, just the whole scenario of will it ever calm down? If you worry about that, then you're worrying about the wrong thing. I can't control COVID. All I can do is manage within it. All I can do is communicate within it. All I can do is to try to do the right thing. If 2009, for instance, we had a huge recession, we
Yes.
were adding 60,000 square feet and $4 million of equipment. We didn't wait; we just did the right thing. So it's a matter of I think of continuing to do what's right, anyways, and again, back to surrounding yourself with good people, make good decisions, and keep adapting.
Surround yourself with good people. What do you look for when you're in the recruitment mode and you're hiring somebody, any level of your
Mhm.
organization? What's the gold star? Say, this might be a good
And recruiting obviously has gotten a
one.
lot more difficult.
Yes.
I mentioned earlier about, attendance in my mind is the absolute number one. I can teach anybody anything. You bring your heart, you bring your head, you're at work, we can make anything out of you. Surrounding, those types of things, with the culture, with our processes, that type of a deal. We see some real difficult looking resumes where people have moved sometimes 6 months, 9 months. Somebody who's maybe for the last 12 years might have 15 jobs. Typically, I would say in the past, I wouldn't touch that resume. Now you have to touch that resume. And, one of my favorite sayings is we're going to do a mental eye poke. And that mental eye poke might be, Dale, tell me about your resume here. Okay. Is there some unhappiness in the past or what had you moving? Because I really need to get comfortable. Okay. Most of our team members have been here for X amount of period of time. And for you to be a good fit, you have to be a stayer. Okay. And tell me what company or what are you looking for that would get you to be a stayer? Because right now, in the last 12 years, you've had 15 different spots. And I'm not saying that to rub your face in it. I'm just saying, tell me what can be different in the future, type of a deal. And we take chances in some cases that we wouldn't have taken in the past. And right now, we've got two young ladies who are waiting on job offers that we put out. That well, I have one more interview. Years ago, leadership was easier because it typically was when you had a job offer to somebody, you typically had acceptance. We haven't had the quit culture that's out there, type of a deal. We've seen that, happen to, some other industries. The team members that we lose on attendance type of a deal. We don't have them going to other, but we have that, oh, I don't really want to work or I can survive on 30 hours or, things like that. And our attendance systems are pretty lucrative. In a 90-day period, you can miss up to like 5 days before you're terminated. And again, like I said earlier, I don't get up in the morning to terminate somebody, but 5 days and 90 is pretty severe. That again, back to not setting your attendance policy aside because I really need the person. You can't really need the person. That person is not with you anyways, and you have to make that difficult decision that they move on. So, in summary of all of that, I would say, as leadership gotten harder and hiring, absolutely. What's the main aspect? Attendance, super number one. But if we do the right thing and do the legacy stuff and do the fun stuff and do the food stuff and do the interest and the voice and show them profitability and things like that, have the compatible culture, they're probably going to attend work more and be a bigger, better team member in the long run.
A couple interesting things you said in there, but first, you haven't had a lot of the great resignation. I've seen statistics that upwards of 50% of millennials are looking for a job or planning to look for a job in the near future. How have you been able to beat that? Why hasn't that happened with your employees?
The and I see those same statistics. I would scoff at them, quite honestly, because I just don't think they hold true. I think in a society that is Amazon driven and internet driven and click side to side, give me the next story, give me the next CNN news. I think that we have that tendency to everybody's maybe always looking for something better type of a deal. So I think back to the culture, back to what we've done, back to our, again, I think being located in Brillion, small city, small team members, 20 to 25-mile radius. I think in a bigger city, I'm going to call it Milwaukee, Chicago, some of those type of deals. I think the more millennial base there would be more apt to, in a more professional, office driven, work from home setting. Manufacturing, I think, is a little bit more difficult because they're hands on. We were essential all the way through from day one. We worked all the way through
Right.
type of deal through COVID. So I think the differentiation to the great resignation in a manufacturing setting versus in an office setting, because I don't want to go to that office anymore. I want to be able to work from home. And if they don't let me work from home, I'm going to find somebody else let me work from home.
Right.
Pretty hard to paint apart from home.
Makes sense. Um, when you talk about attendance, if I heard it right, you're talking not only about physically being there, but mentally being there. There's an engagement that's an aspect of that. Is that accurate? Could you talk about that?
Very accurate. Again, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I've gone to the it cannot just be a job type of a deal. You have to come with something that has a fire. Hump day can't be your major looking point at the beginning of the week. Well, I hope I make it to Wednesday because then I can see Friday type of a deal.
Right.
It has to be more than just, you have to have something to look forward to. And our constant challenge is just that. Whether it be, the fun events or, like last week I mentioned, we had a magazine shoot in from Product Finishing Magazine, which is a leader in our industry that does a competition each year called Top Shops. And we've been a top shop for all 7 years. And that was a big part of what they wanted to come. So it's the pride that comes from that. It gets done and the team members are asking, well, how did it go? So it's the engagement aspect of knowing that my company, our company, it's not just me saying it because I don't own it, but I own a part of our success as our team members do.
It sounds like there's a fair amount of circular here that you want people to be engaged physically, intellectually. You're giving them data to help them be engaged, that you've really thought through how all these things connect.
I would say, it's not as easy as that may sound when you say you thought through it, because I don't think you wake up in the morning, read a book and go there. We don't have a lot of meetings. Okay. We meet a couple times a week, just a leadership group that I have, a HR coordinator, office manager, Zinc business team manager, powder coat manager. They're all ladies. Okay. All very capable. And we're basically talking about staffing, any other concerns. And then the big part is, what are we going to do for fun next? Okay. What are we going to do to engage? What can we do to make it more interesting, type of a deal. So the whole aspect of you see a lot of companies, oh, I'm in meetings all day long. I'm just not a big fan of that scenario of just, working on the business instead of getting stuck inside of it.
I'm assuming there's some complementary here where, because you've done all the empowerment, your management team doesn't have to be making those kind of decisions because you've got folks throughout the organization, the other 100 plus, that are making those kind of decisions.
Right. And I think the empowerment really comes with strong processes. I said earlier, anybody can plate, anybody can paint. It's a matter of how you do it and who you do it with and how good you are at it. And I think back to that top shop deal, the process is a recipe. And I'll look at McDonald's. Okay. McDonald's is probably not the best food for you, but I love their Coke or I love their Diet Coke.
Yes.
And every time I drive through that drive-through, I will see a different person every time. That tells me there's probably some turnover there. But if you go on the inside of McDonald's, you see a diagram up on the wall and it tells you where to put the pickle. Okay. We're all about where to put the pickle. Okay. Our processes are set that Don can't change them, Sue can't change them, Carrie can't change them. It's a set process. So a Monday bracket's going to look like a Wednesday bracket. It's going to plate like a Friday bracket. So I think it's that process repeatability that's built in, whether a new team member comes in or a 5-year or 10-year, it's doing everything the same way with the same expectation. And I think that sameness then really covers the quality side of it. And if you can get your team to enjoy doing that same and keep on kind of like at the county fair, if you were taking the big heavy sledgehammer and ringing
Right.
that bell, really what we do every day. The more that they can feel that they're ringing the bell, I think you really have a good success. And so it's not about writing the book or reading something, but it's about adapting. You know, I mentioned the phone app that we have. It's for a company out of California called Beekeeper. It costs us about $10,000 a year. Best money I've ever spent to be able to communicate to 175 team members like all at once. Boom, done. It's no different than at church. If you have 3 services on a Sunday and then the neighbors are all talking, well, Father John didn't say that. Well, Father Larry said this because you all heard it at the same time.
We all got it.
You all got it.
What's the most fun part about being a leader?
I think the involvement, obviously, you can see, you know, like when I talk about stuff or just, you know, the back to seeing somebody who wasn't confident become confident, being able to take somebody and turn the corner for them, believing in them, and then obviously being able to step back and see that, you know, for instance, me personally, we've been able to add, you know, 125,000 square feet. You know, we've taken it from single digits into, you know, double digits, adding $4 million of new equipment again. Now it's just a very rewarding to have those successes and help people be successful. And I'd be remiss if I wouldn't talk about the Endries family and has just been such a good provider for me as a leader, but for us as a team to be able to, you know, here's the ball, here's the toys, here's the tools, go ahead and do it. And I think not all companies have that. So it's important to know that find your fit type of a deal. If you want to be in a bigger company, 800 to 1,000, there might be some different perks in that scenario, but they're also probably not going to know your name, and they're probably not going to know what your kids like or that your daughter plays in sports or this or that. So again, I think be understanding where you want to be and what bar you want to see move. You know, and over the years, I've had a lot of people, why don't you do this? Or would you be willing to talk to this recruiter? Or do you want to move to Chicago? No, don't want to move to Chicago type of a deal. So you got to, as a leader, I think you got to know where you want to go and get that power from what you can move and have a good fit. If it's all about money, then you got to decide that you're probably not, you're going to be a leader, but if you're all about money, then you're leading in a different way. You're leading yourself, probably not just your team.
Any final thoughts? Anything we haven't talked about that as you think of leadership? Any nuggets of wisdom for younger folks coming up in the leadership ranks?
I would say, and again, you know, I'd really, there's probably a different word that I would look to switch leadership into and make the word leadership go away. And I don't know really what that word is, but we've talked a lot about confidence and mentoring and embracing and whatever. If those are things behind it, I don't think commonly people would say, well, what do you mean embrace? What does that have to do with leadership? Mentoring, they might think of it, you know, type of a deal. But I think back to anybody can do anything. It's just having the confidence to do it. And I always say, we'll never put you in a position that would harm you. And it's no different than the first day your dad took the training wheels off. Okay. He knew you were going to crash, but he probably had you on the grass. Okay.
Right.
He probably thought ahead. Okay. And by 2 o'clock that afternoon, after you were all grass stained and dirty, you couldn't wait to run up to the door to tell mom, hey, look at this. You know, I got it type of a deal. So I think back at that point, your father was leading, you know, type of a deal. Didn't have leadership in his title, didn't have leader in his title. So and I'm sure he had as big a smile as you did, when you rode that for the first time. So those are the small things that happen every day in business, whether they're a promotion for somebody or I just recently had a team member go to third shift and because somebody else left went to a different profession and wasn't real sure. Team member had some attendance deals, but yet, I think he can do this. And he's just knocked it out of the park. Makes me immensely proud.
So I'm hearing a very broad concept that, not sure leadership's the right word, but that everybody in their own life and in their own work experience needs to be having many of the characteristics that we would attribute to being a leader.
I think that is the aspect. And I think, it's hard for us to move the bar in society. And I talked about the vision early on, but if our 175 team members can move that bar slightly, and everybody thinks of being more of a leader, which might be emulating more of the right thing, or listening more often, or not being so defensive or so opinionated, the vision would be less on the outside. So obviously, back on the business side, I think everybody has leading capability. And if you stop and don't say leader or leadership, because I think most often if you took 100 team members and ask them, what's your definition of leadership? They might say, my name or the dean at the college or something like that, because they've been programmed to think it's title related. And we just work really hard to say, no, it's not title related. It's what you do, how you do it, who you do it with.
Thank you. Larry, I want to thank you for spending time with us and being such a wonderful representative of professional plating, the Endries family, and yourself. It's just been a joy to listen to you for the last bit.
Thank you for the opportunity and for the college. Great series.
Thank you all for listening to another session of It's Time Podcast. I hope you'll join us again. Thank you.
It's Time is a production of the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh College of Business Graduate Programs in association with Venture Project Studios. Executive producer, Aaron J. Armstrong. Host, Professor Dale Feinauer. Creative Director, Madison Potratz. Director of Photography, Elazar Kloon. Audio and Video Editor, Elazar Kloon. Marketing Strategy, Tara Larson. Social Media, Anwar Mahana. A special thanks to L Creative, Top View Media, Michael Patton, and the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh College of Business Graduate Programs.